All right, thanks. Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting webinar from the Change Leader series, Breakfree. So today we will be looking at the topic, the land of Utopia, does it exist for testers? Next slide, please. My name is Geraldine, and I'll be your host for today. So before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules. Your line is currently muted. However, you can submit your questions during the webinar through the chat option at the bottom of your screen, and we will answer your questions as a part of the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. And please note that this webinar is currently being recorded, and we'll send out the link of the recording so that you can have a watch later or share it with your friends or colleagues. So with that being said, let me quickly share a bit about the Breakfree series. So Breakfree was an idea that birthed out of the need for change in the testing domain. So we've seen the testing industry grow and evolve over the decades as a few leaders took the risk to break free from traditional approaches towards testing and have come up with a lot of new ideas and practices. So we believe that this change can be accelerated at a much faster pace. So we took the liberty of identifying and inviting a few change leaders for breaking the mold and embracing the change to see the QA industry evolve. And that became what is now called as Breakfree, a Change Leader series. So our only hope is that these sessions would spark ideas in each of you to be the change that's needed in the QA industry for the industry itself to grow into greater leaps and bounds. So with that, let me welcome the change leader for today, Pricilla Bilavendran. So Pricilla is a passionate senior test engineer currently working with Millennium IT Services Malaysia. She has a decade of experience in quality assurance, especially in areas like functional, ETL, automation, and API testing. She is a Postman supernova and speaks at various events regarding API and Postman. She's also passionate about cloud computing and is an AWS community builder. Also, she's one of the global ambassadors of the Women Tech Network. She believes in coexistence and harmony. She's a certified mentor and has helped many test engineers build their career through her mentoring sessions. And as you all know, she's an active community member and she's contributed to the testing community through her blogs, webinars, and workshops. So without any further delay, let me hand it over to our speaker for the day, Pricilla Bilavendran, to take it forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, Chero. Thank you for having me in the first place. And I wish our audience will enjoy the talk for today. And just a second. So since you covered most of my introduction, I don't think I have anything to cover more. So just a bit about me. So I'm basically from Madurai, which is from the southern part of India. And currently I live in Malaysia with my family. So this is just a personal fact. And about today's agenda. So since the topic, the name of the topic, like the session as such has this word of utopia, I'll just give a brief introduction about this word, utopia. How was it born? And then few challenges which has been faced by our software testers in today's evolvement, as you mentioned before, and then how to face and mitigate those challenges. Some simple tips and tricks, whatever worked for me. And then we'll go for, because whatever we do, whatever we learn, some days we need motivation to keep ourselves, right? So I'll just share a few tips of knowledge, whatever which work for me, kind of things which can definitely help you to go better, and that will help you for not only for you, for your teams, also to be highly productive. And then finally, we'll have a Q&A session before we wrap it off. So the word utopia. So what is it all about, and what is the history? The word as such is very fancy, right? And it keeps us to make us to think what it is more about, right? So when we talk about that, Utopia is called as an imaginary society where things are being so perfect. Okay, and according to Wikipedia, it's not just me. So Wikipedia is telling like it's an imaginary community or society that possesses highly desirable or nearly perfect qualities for its members. So when we call it as a utopia, the land of utopia, or the paradise, whatever, so that is equivalent, and people are so good and everything is so good and there is no complaint. So that is an imaginary thing, of course, right? So that is what we call it as utopia, the definition of utopia. And when we talk about the history, the term utopia was initially coined by Sir Thomas More in his book, which is called as Utopia, which was released in 1516, which is very old, right? So quite a old terminology, what we are going to use today. And when we talk about utopia, there should be a contrary, right? So when the contrary is called as dystopia. So obviously now you would have already guessed. So what is when we talk about utopia, what is dystopia? You could have already easily guessed. So let's see some features, what we call it as features of utopia. That's a perfect imaginary society, which we saw before. And people usually relate that with paradise, okay? And it's mostly desirable. Of course, when we call it as a paradise, it's a desirable thing, right? People wanted to go there. So it's a desirable environment as such, and you have a lot of freedom and you feel more productive being in that environment and being in that world. And when we speak about a dystopia, it's total opposite to that, right? So it's obviously chaotic, and we always relate that which is to hell. Of course, the opposite of paradise is hell, right? So, and it's obviously undesirable because things are totally chaotic, and we call it as undesirable, and it's not at all managed, and we don't like to be in that sort of place, right? So because it's totally unpleasant. So this is the extreme, two different extreme worlds, which we call it as utopia and dystopia. So once we proceed to this talk for the session, you will get to know why we need to know these two extremities of these two worlds, utopia and dystopia. And yeah, before getting into the real session, just a brainstorming question for all of you. How is your workplace? You can just tell us in chat. How do you feel about your workplace or your current environment? Where you are in? Like, are you happy? Are you content? Are you satisfied? So just explain us in one term. Like, how do you currently? Because when you think about your workplace currently, what is that single one word which comes to your mind? So we would just I'm just so curious to hear how is your workplace right now. Okay, and we already know because I can't say like everybody was surviving in a utopian world, right? Definitely no. We all have challenges every day, and that too in this current advancements of testing, because I have seen over a decade like how we started as I started as a tester, how testing process was, and now how as a tester, like the role as such has been evolved. Like we call it we have many fancy roles, right? We call it as test architect, test automation, SD, I don't know, because we whatever you call, you can just name it. So we have a lot of fancy roles coming up. So it means like there are a lot of advancements as such has been coming through this testing industry, right? But that is again one more thing. Like when you see a lot of advancements and when you see that the industry is growing, obviously the challenges are also growing parallelly, right? You have to handle many things which was totally out of your control as such. Not only the complete dystopian world, but there are some things that which is being part and parcel of your everyday life, and that's how every QA is running their life as such. So I'm so sure that you all can relate this very easily. Yes, I believe you guys got it right. So they will ask you to start testing, right? But you will not have enough documents, enough details, nothing. But they'll just say like, that's it. You have to go and start the testing, right? So in this sort of situation, definitely as a tester, and that too when you are a beginner into testing, we'll be so much disappointed with testing as such. Like how can you just ask me to start testing, and that too without any detail? So this is one common struggle every tester is facing through. And the next one is about miscommunication. They easily say, we believe this was being communicated to the testing team, right? You guys might have heard the statement very frequently. It's not that case. And sometimes they will say, like, sorry, we missed to include testing team in this email. So that's very common statement which we hear in that case. And even though when they communicate something also, there is something which has been broken, and we have to come to another conclusion which is totally contrary to their thought process. So these sort of miscommunication in your everyday activity is also leading to a lot of chaos. And the next thing is about instability. We might have seen this, right? So as this picture depicts, your environment will be totally unstable, your application will be totally unstable, because most of the times when you're trying to hit your APIs, for example, you'll be facing the service unavailable error message. But then how could you test? How could you test? That's impossible, right? So this instability is also one of the major reasons that we are being into this struggle today. And stringent timelines, of course, we know it's not that easy to complete in a stipulated time, and that too in this agile, we are being squeezed into very stringent timelines due to some of the requirements from the client as well, right? So this stringent timeline is also more pressurizing nowadays, I would say. And then it's about the fancy thing which we call it as automation. Automation is really good, but the thing is, like, 100% automation is still a myth, and we all know that, right? Just because someone is forcing you and someone is pushing you, if you're trying to automate something, it leads to these sort of things. Just for the sake of automation, we do, and then we keep all those scripts in the shelf, and nobody's going to use that, right? So this has to be. I have seen these challenges in many of the projects before. Just for the sake of automation, they do automate, and you just keep it in shelf. So we have to make sure in what ground we have to have some sort of ground rules before getting into this entire process of automation. And the next thing is, like, of course, tools. We have a lot of tools which is offering very good features. Whatever we want is available in market, right? But when we go to these tools, picking a right tool and based on the skill set is again one of the biggest challenges for us, because we have a lot of options available. So what fits for us is again a challenge, right? So again, this tool selection and the skill set based on the skill set is again one of the biggest challenges that we face for today. And this is straightforward, of course, because as testers, we are handling with different people every day. And we all know that everyone is different, right? You can't handle everyone in the same way. So people are different, and handling them can be again stressful to all of us. One day, it has been some days are really rough with people. So we have to learn to handle people as well, right? So people management is also one of the toughest tasks that we as testers are going through. And the next one, yeah, this is the last challenge for today, which I have. What we call it is, like, people say easily that as testers, you have to keep learning, and you have to motivate, and you have to keep learning, and you shouldn't give up learning, and that is something which is keeping testing alive and all those things. That's easy to say. I totally understand. That's really easy to say. But when it comes to real environment, just think how it's going to be. We are studying for years, right? Initially, we were using textbooks, but right now we are preparing for certifications, and sometimes some certifications expire, and we again go through for renewing it, right? So we are keep on learning it. Isn't it frustrating? Of course, it's frustrating because we are humans and we need a break, right? So it's easy to say, because even I say that learning keeps you alive, but I know, well, keep on learning and upgrading yourself is not that easy. So these are the major challenges that I noticed we as testers are facing today, facing based on today's market expectations. So what can be done? Okay, you can ask me, Priscilla. Okay, I understand, because most of the challenges, even we can also relate it. I believe you folks can also relate these challenges. But what can be done? there should be some solution to it, right? And I'm not going to say any big mantras here, okay? It's just going to be simple tips and tricks which worked for me. So I'll be just keep sharing it, and just feel free to comment in the chat box as well. We would love to hear from you. The first one is about early testing. When we say as early testing, it's not just literally starting your testing as early as possible. No, try to involve in the project as early as possible. That really makes sense, right? Even from the planning stage. Of course, I know this has a lot of things to do with the resourcing and estimation. So that's why. So if there are any test managers and test leads who are watching this, please make sure that you are planning the testers as early as possible in the project, so that they'll be involved in the planning stage, and that will be most efficient time, right? They can ask more questions, they can get to know more about the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, they can build a rapport, and they can also get a basic knowledge about the project. So early testing is one of the best solution which can help you. And this second one is about we all might have seen the horse wearing blinkers, right? What I'm trying to say with this metaphor here is like, wearing blinkers is of course a good thing. We as a humans and we as a testers should also need these blinkers. When is like when you are in your focus mode. When you're entering your focus mode, of course, we need these blinkers so that we will not be distracted and we'll be so much focused towards our work, and that's to be get done. But at the same time, when coming to some other situations, we have to remove those blinkers because they will prevent us to see the bigger picture, the larger picture, which we call, right? So in your project, when you're working as a tester, try to remove these blindfolds, okay? And try to get the bigger picture, and you should know the upstream, downstream, and the entire tech stack of your project. So that helps you to, again, how to say, it's something which is going out of box thinking, right? Which we call it as out of box thinking. So sometimes we have to remove those blinkers, which helps us to see the overall picture. And yeah, so we all know when we are making a good food, we need multiple flavors, right? So even if you see this picture of biryani here, who doesn't love likes biryani? Like as we always say, biryani is an emotion, right? Why is it so? Because we are adding a lot of flavors and a lot of spices to that, right? Similarly, testing has a lot of flavors. In this context, what I'm trying to say is like, we have a lot of flavors of testing, like you can see as functional testing, automation testing, ETL, EDI, usability testing, and then user acceptance testing, accessibility testing, security testing, performance testing. We have a lot of flavors, right? So just with one flavor, of course we will be bored. So only when we have this mix and match of these flavors, right, you will also not be bored, and your job is also secured. So for instance, as a functional tester, if you're not interested in learning coding or automation, there are many other things that you can contribute to, right? You can learn about user experience. That's really going to be a value add to the project and to the customers. You can learn about accessibility. Another example, for instance, you are an API tester. Don't just stop with APIs. Learn more about performance, learn about security testing. Try to implement those security testing and performance testing for your APIs. So that's it, right? So that is going to be a value add for your entire project. And also, not only for your project, also for your career. You're going to learn something new and you're going to contribute it back. So just learn and implement that as well. And this is something like documentation, which might be a look like old-fashioned thing, right? People might think that it is old-fashioned, but it's not that case. And I know it's tiring. It's not that easy to document, right? Every day to have this documentation. Of course, it's not that easy, but you have to document everything. In the sense, why is it like a process, or what the process you did, how to do your project flow, or the approach, or the materials you used, and maybe due to these advancements you can even record everything, right? You can record all the KT sessions, you can put it in one single place. So that is how you are going to maintain a complete repository, and that repository is not only useful for you and also useful for the young testers who are going to join the project, or also to the other teams who are looking for the same project details in the future. So in that way, documentation has a very important role to play. And the next one is like interesting one, yeah. Automate wherever possible. You might ask me like, I told 100% automation is a myth before, and now I'm telling like automate wherever possible. That's why automate wherever possible. So if there is a possibility of automating, starting from your daily routine, try to automate it. That will definitely save a lot of your effort, and that helps you to do something productive. I always say this to my team as well. If there is a simple thing, say for example, even your what to cook for today, try to plan 1 week ahead. Like when you plan these sort of simple stuff and as early as possible, your brain will have a lot of space to do something productive, to think creative. So that is the reason when you're automating it, I always call it as like I have multiple threads in my brain and all the threads are running. So when I'm trying to automate even a simple reminder, I'm putting it for something, that thread is gone, right? My brain is being freed up to sum up to some extent. So that extent and that space, I can make it use for something more productive. So try to use simple tools to automate your workflows. For example, if you're using Jira, and there is a way like you can automate or you can play through the Jira APIs and you can try to automate the defect logging process instead of doing it manually. So you can even create bulk defects also if you want, right? And also you can integrate with other tools. For instance, we are using Postman for automation testing, and we are actually integrating that with the repository, and automatically this collections or whatever collections we are using is being imported, and we don't do any manual things. So not only for these tools, I know a lot of tools today are offering this integration facility. So try to use that integration facility to an extent where whatever extent is possible. So this will help you to save a lot of time and effort. And again, when it comes to the automation tool selection, do your own POC. Okay, there are a lot of tools available in market, and every tool has its pros and cons. So always do your POC and decide what is best for your project, what is best for your client, because every requirement is different, and every project is different, and every team is different, right? Your team skill set is different. So just because someone is suggesting me a tool, like I can't just go and implement the same. So do your own POC. Many of the tools are offering the trial period. Go and speak with the marketing team and try to do your own POC and try to pick a tool which is a right fit for your own situation and your own projects. Okay? And yeah, when it comes to technical skills, people say like continuous learning. I agree, it's a frustrating part. So that is why what I'm trying to say here is like when you are trying to learn something new, you have to implement it, right? You might ask me, Priscilla, I have learned so and so technology, but I'm not using it in my project. What you can do is like try to build your own kind of side project maybe, and in that way you will have a kind of hands-on, right? So try to learn more about the latest technologies coming into markets. It can be with either with AI, machine learning, or cloud. Either what if we have a lot of cloud provider services coming up, whatever cloud services it can be. In these context, you can try to attend the conferences. You can be a listener in the webinars and the workshops and all those things. Also, when you're trying to learn these new skills and you're trying to implement it, try to go ahead and write a blog, because that's how you will remember things, right? So you have already built your own side projects, and go ahead and talk about it. Teach your team. That is again, it's going to be a biggest advantage for you, because when your team is getting to know more about what is being done, they are definitely going to be happy, right? So educate your team with that, and try to have internal webinars in your office. If you're not comfortable in doing an external one, try to go for an internal webinar. Educate your team more about it, and when you're sharing your knowledge, definitely whatever you learned is being implemented and you have shared as well. So obviously you have learned something for your lifetime. And the next thing, this is very pretty simple, and as a tester, you might have heard it for your entire life. I'm so sure about it. So consider yourself as a user, right? Whenever you're testing, uh, treat or think that you are going to be a user for that product. And I'm so sure today most of us are using many applications every day, right? Starting from mobile application, desktop, web, we are using a lot of applications. So we know what is the triggering point for the customer, which makes the customer happy and which makes a frown face. We all know that, right? So based on that, think as a user, put yourself in their shoes, and uh, try, if you're thinking in that aspect, and if you're going to deliver the project right, definitely that will be one of the best, right? So think yourself as a user is one of the basic tip which can help you. Yes, and the next thing is like I'm just not saying just effective reports. This statement has a very deeper meaning. Okay, listen to me. So when we log a defect, most of the testers won't. We are missing to give all the essential details to the defect, right? So I always keep one thing in my mind. A defect should speak for itself. That's what we call it as. So whenever you're logging a defect, make sure that you are giving all the necessary details. I remember an incident when I started as a trainee. I have a test lead, and she told me like one statement. Remember that because one day I logged a defect, and that was a very critical defect, and I missed to give one detail: test data. What is the test data? Like the test data ID, whatever I created, I missed to give that and give it in that defect. And my developer is based in US, so I had to wait for one more day. And only when I'm back, and I gave the test data detail, and he started his debugging process. So that day, my lead just told me one statement: whenever you're logging a defect, make sure that your developer doesn't come back to you. So that way, your defect reports should speak for itself, okay? And not just the defect reports or the defects or whatever you're logging. It comes to your test reports, your test plan, your summary reports, your status reports, everything. Try to make as effective as possible. Just not for the sake of doing it, don't do it, okay? And once you're being effective, this entirely shows the capability of a testing team as such. So keep that in mind and work for your reports. And yeah, so this thing is very straightforward. What I'm trying to say is here, training a brain is not that easy, right? So right now we saw more of your technical skills and related to your project, your domain knowledge, your skills. That's all fine. But when it comes to train your brain, you should remember that your cognitive skills really matter a lot. Okay, how you're questioning, how you're thinking, how does your critical thinking work, how does your problem solving methodology is working. Only based on this your brain is being so creative, right? So try to train your brain and improve your focus attention. There are some methodologies which you can try, a simple one, and based on that try to train your brains be much more active. And in my case what I'll do is like I'll usually start my day, and as early as possible, once I check my emails, then it's done. I'll not go back and check my email boxes frequently. And after once I get ready and I sit for work, the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I'll pick up a very critical task, which that has to be completed, and that helps me to, because that was the most productive time, right? So you should know what is your most active time, what is the most creative time, and based on your brain you can pick your task and you can try to complete that. Okay. And yeah, so this is something like which every tester today have to do. You can ask me like everyone is writing a blog, and why should I write a blog? I was also having a same assumption years back, and but somehow I broke that imposter syndrome and I started writing very simple blogs. I started to write about APIs and Postman, and someday I got a random message saying from a person saying like this was very helpful, and they were able to get fixed whatever which I was expecting. So this just made my day. Okay, and I was thinking like I thought I'm not helping anyone, but this is ultimately helping someone, and I didn't know that. Luckily, that person texted me, right? So if they didn't text me back, I would have still thinking like whether my blog is helpful or not. But that simple message changed my entire attitude, and I started contributing in whatever way possible back to the community. So try to build your own community, and there are many ambassadorship programs running for the tools, right? So go be part of those ambassadorship programs, and also these communities. Try to be part of those testing communities and other famous or other favorite communities wherever you want to be part of, whether it is either your tool or the tech stack, whatever you are using, or based on that. And like, if you are not going to talk about you, no one else will do that, right? So just be proud of yourself and build your own profile. And yes, finally, we all know that people matter. It's so easy to hurt someone just by words or just by action, right? But make sure that finally it's you and your team, right? They are going to be with you. So try to build an inclusive, diversified team. I have seen highly performing teams when they are built in that way. I have seen that, and try to foster both the synchronous and the asynchronous way of communication. Don't force people to join every day on your daily stand up. They might be in a different time zone, right? So, test managers and test leads, if you're watching this, make sure that you are planning properly both the modes of communication based on the availability and the time zone of the team, and try to have the inclusive, diversified team. They really matter. And maintain a very good rapport with the team, maintain a transparency. It's all about collaborating, right? It's about collaborating with people. And when it comes to the negative messages, how we are handling to deliver those negative messages, and when there is a team dispute, we have to handle it better. And finally, yeah, it's like people should empower others, right? So just make sure that you are empowering you, and leaders, please make sure that you are empowering your team. And so before we wrap it off, I have just basic thing. I know we all might have heard about this SWOT analysis, right? We all know this. What is this SWOT stand for? So S is for strengths, as we all know. That's an inner thing, right? What are your own strength? What is so special about you, right? So make sure that, because why I'm listing it right now is like, everyone should be aware of your own strength, and you should know that what you're good at, right? So make sure that you are trying to list out your own strengths, and you should know what is your own weakness, right? Because there are a lot of areas that you have to improve, and something might be stopping you. So what you have to do is like, you should be able to figure it out. That's the first step. Creating self awareness is the first step, right? So go ahead and do a self reflection. Try to find your strength, try to find your weakness. And as the word says, like opportunities, you should know, like, what are the other ways that I can create more of it? Like, how I can make my profile more visible? What are the ways that I can contribute to others? How I can help my team? So these are the opportunities where you are looking at to enhance yourself and also your team and other people. And threats are finally, this is something like making you so much distracted, right? So in what way they are distracting you? There are a lot of forces which is outside, and they are trying to control you. They might cause a threat, right? So try, sit and analyze. So I would suggest all of you to do a SWOT analysis, and this SWOT will definitely help you to understand more better. You might think that you know a lot better about you, but after writing about this SWOT analysis, especially when it comes to your career progress, definitely you'll understand more and what to do next. Okay. And finally, it's totally off the technical topic. But as per my personal experience, I just wanted to share few tips which really helped me to being stay motivated. Because honestly, I don't lie. I do have my bad days. I do have my bad days. Some days I don't feel like doing anything, and some days I feel like conquering the world, right? Because that's a human thing. We are all humans, and we have that. So if even if you're feeling the same way, there is nothing to be ashamed of. We all have our ups and downs. So when you are feeling down, I just have few things that which in my personal life which helped me. So one such thing is like this book. I'm not sure if you have read this book. If not, please go ahead and read it. This is a very simple book and has not even a bigger book, short number of pages, and definitely you will love it. So the crux of the book is like, they'll tell you or they'll guide you like how this finding a purpose of your life is going to help you to stay motivated. Only when we know the purpose, or we know the existence, reason for our existence, that will definitely motivate you. Knowing or unknowingly, you will run towards what you want, right? So that that's going to be a self motivation factor. So if you get a chance, definitely do read this book. I'm so sure that you will love it. And some simple tips which I can say is like, yeah, keep moving. Even if you're not a fitness freak, go for at least a simple walking. Try to meet new people, get fresh air, and practice gratitude is a very simple thing. Whenever some things totally a negative thing is just happening around me, the first thing which I'll do is like, I'll just think about something which I'm so grateful for. So try to practice gratitude. Find a mentor or a friend whom you can be so transparent and talk openly with. Develop a new hobby. Okay, either it can be learning a board game, or it can be going out for something new, or trying to paint or singing music, whatever it is. So try to develop a new hobby, whatever age it is, forget about it, and try to celebrate your small wins. Either it is big or small, it has to be celebrated. And never reach the threshold level. Take a break whenever you feel like this is the limit and I definitely have to. So try to have your hard stops, and take a break whenever you really wanted to. And so this is one quote which I wanted to remind you. So when we started, we all know that there was a world of utopia. But now I wanted to finish like, there is no perfect place, job, or life. We only have the present time. So love what you do, or do something else. So this is how the world is built, right? So it'll have all the pros and cons, but it's the way how you see it, right? Whether it's a utopia or a dystopia, it is totally depending on the way you see that, and how your brain is being trained to see that, right? So I believe that's all for today. And it was really nice talking to all of you, and thank you everyone who decided to spend your 40 minutes with me, and listening to me patiently. I believe it was right on time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Priscilla, for an enlightening and interesting session. So the challenges that you just mentioned, they were very relatable, not just only for testers, but I think every individual face such kind of challenges in their work life. And the ideas and tips that you shared, I hope it will be helpful for everybody who are here to navigate through those challenges. So I really hope everybody today here will be able to find a really good value out of it. So thank you so much. So it's Q&A time. So if you have any questions for Priscilla, shoot away. So Priscilla, here's a question for you. So how
Yes.
to get started with API testing?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for putting that up. Because we all know that API testing is getting a lot of attention nowadays, right? And that I would say like that's one of the interesting area to get started with. And if you are totally new to API testing, the first suggestion I would give you is like, don't get intimidated by the technical terms which the developers use and the documentation has. Don't get intimidated. Initial steps are really hard, but I would say like it's definitely worth of doing it. So the first step would be like trying to understand all those technical jargon which are being used in the API documentation. That will help you to learn more about, and in simply you should know a simplified API. You should first I try to understand what is an API. You should be able to know how does an API call work, and then try to understand the jargon, and then you can just pick a simple tool and get started with that. I believe there are a lot of courses and many YouTube tutorials are available. You can just go ahead and get started. The basic step is like, don't get intimidated. Okay, try to get started with understanding more about the API tech. It's not just about API testing terms. That's what people maximum fail it, Jero. Like when they are starting with API testing, they'll definitely directly go about the technical terms of API testing. It's not that way. You definitely have to get the overall overall picture of API as such. Don't think like you're not going to be an API developer. No, it's not that way. You have to understand how does an API work, what is a development tool that the developer is using. You should know all these things, and what is in the front end, what is in the back end. So you have to understand the entire world revolving around all those APIs you're going to test. And once you're confident with these terminologies, right, any other tool, any other technology, like wherever we go, we can definitely get settled. So these will be my tips. Like, understand the jargon, don't get intimidated, and try to understand generally how API testing process works. Like, how does the test plan is being designed for API testing? How do they test the test design process for API? So these things will help you understand, and definitely you can get onboarded with whatever tool you wanted to. And just before one thing, yeah, I have a barcode here. So if someone is so curious to see my website, they can just scan this barcode, and that will take you to my website. And feel free to connect with me in the social handles and say hi. No worries. I'll be so excited to chat with all of you. Okay. Okay. I see one question, like, what are the examples of your examples of small wins? Yeah, I can totally understand, because it differs from person to person, right? Some things might be small for me, something might be so bigger for me. Personally, it is something like, where I'm able to reduce 1 or 2 kgs. That's personally a small win, right? And when it comes to technical thing, I would say, like, every day I have a quota of learning at least one new thing that day. So if I'm making it possible, that's definitely a small win for me. Just to make that happen, I'll continuously learn. And other than that, what other examples I could say? Just someday which I'm making my team happy. I might be there might be just a simple recognition for my team member, but I'll make sure that everyone in the team and my super bosses are also are aware of that. So that is some kind of small win for me. Anything else?
Here's
Okay.
another question. Okay,
Yeah,
so okay.
I see that life
Okay.
of a tester in cloud, right? Yeah. Okay. So cloud technology is not something which has been into market for the recent times. It is there from the initial days. And when it comes to cloud, first point is like similar to API testing. Testers shouldn't be intimidated by the terminologies. And every project is using cloud in a different way. Say, for example, in our project, we just use it for storage, right? So what as a tester we can do is like try to understand the cloud basics. Okay. Understanding the cloud basic terminologies and the cloud basics can definitely help you. And based on your tool usage, like whatever your client or your organization is using it, try to go for a basic certification in that. And that will help you to understand more about the services, because as a tester we might not use all the services, right? So based on that, you can go ahead and learn more about that cloud provider and their services. Anything else that I missed?
So here's also another question, Priscilla, for you. So, what are some pointers or tricks for learning about new trends in software testing field?
Okay. One thing is like, LinkedIn is one of the good place to start it with. Follow the industry experts and get to know more from them. And there are many newsletters which is actually sharing a lot of information. And another thing, following the testing communities and being attentive in all the webinars and conferences. I know it's really tough to attend all the webinars and all the talks, but I would say, try to attend all the sessions live, because even I do that mistake, and I've suggested my friends also. If you're waiting for a recorded session, you'll never watch it. So try to attend, try to plan your work accordingly, and try to be there as a live audience, and that will definitely help you. So these are the few tricks. And I would say I'm seeing one question: any tips to build a new community? Okay, this is a very good question. I would love to. I'm recently learning more about this community thing, because community is not just about being a contributor, right? When you're building a community, you have to be more open, and you have to trust people. So community is nothing but people who really have similar thought process and similar interest are coming together for a simple cause. So building a community from day one and running through that is not that easy. So a few things that we have to keep in mind is like the common interest, what keeps us going, and the consistency, what is making you to think. And also, when you build a community, most of the communities are not being into existence just because they are missing the financial aspect. So try to think about the financial aspect of the community, like how the community members are being going to be financially being aided, or what is the advantage for them. And then next thing I would say is like just be open to people. And I believe once we do this, like we can try to have people with similar mindset, and it helps us to run in a long time.
I also see another question for you, Priscilla.
Yes.
So could you share some best practices for improving the quality assurance process?
Okay, sure. So if you see, even before the previous slides, we all think like some technologies are being still old fashioned, but there is a mix and match, and there has to be a balance always. So I would say understand the basics more, because I'm still seeing in today's most of the young testers testing basics, like they are lacking in basics. That is one thing. Of course, they are so much brilliant and they are much talented, but try to learn the basics. Without basics, testing is nothing. So learning the basics and try to advance from that is one thing, right? So you have to be strong with the basics, and then process and rules are will keep on changing. So based on your project and your client's needs, try to have a proper revisit. The same old fashioned, when we started, you mentioned about it, right? That doesn't work in a long way. So try to have a revisit, a frequent revisit, and try to see if this testing approach is going to help you in a long way. So when we have these sort of retrospections, and like it's not just about the tools. When you learn a tool, always try to understand the process. uh, Say for example, when it is a performance testing, of course we have a lot of tools available in the market, but before that, as a tester, you should know what is the basic performance testing and why we need to do that. So only when you're strong in the basics, you can learn any tool, right? So I believe when we are doing these things, definitely we can implement and we can go for a better quality assurance process. Okay. How do you keep your team motivated and maintain positivity? Okay, bad things happen, to be honest. Everybody, we are all humans. So first thing is like always try to be open with your team. That's what I always do. So I'll let my team also to be open to me. Like I'll let them to speak. Even in our one-to-ones, I always have try to have as much as casual chat with them. So once I'm open with them, they are also sharing their stories. So in that way, I'll come to know what is their aspirations. So when I know their aspirations, and when they know, when I get to know their interest, I can easily motivate them based on that, right? So first thing is like letting them open, and based on their own interest and their passion, I'll definitely try to motivate them. And definitely we have bad days. We usually when we have some bad days, definitely I prefer taking a break. That's it. taking a short breaks will definitely help you to bounce back, right? So just try to take a short break. And positivity is something which is not which is a wide topic. I don't say like everybody can be so much positive all the time. We can try to do our best. In that way, I learned more about training the brain. So that is where when I'm training my brain, I can definitely handle things properly. People say that you always have to see the positive aspect even when negative things happen. It doesn't come that easily, but when you train your brain more towards that positivity, or if you're so spiritual, you can go towards that. And I believe once you're training your brain, you can definitely do that. And taking ISTQB exam is worth for a career growth as a fresher tester. This is again a controversial topic, okay? But I would suggest when I speak about testing basics, ISTQB is one of the best place to understand more about the testing terminologies and testing basics. So definitely it's a worth to go. But based on this certification, if someone is hiring you or rejecting you, I definitely can't go for that. I don't support that for any cost. But for your personal understanding and personal love, a passion more towards testing, definitely ISTQB will help you. What else? Have we covered all the questions? Just a second.
Okay, then. Thank you so much, Priscilla, for answering those questions and for that amazing talk that you just gave. So it was a great pleasure to have you on the Breakfree stage with us today. So
Thank you so
this
much
concludes
for
the
having me.
webinar.
Thank you so much. I would really thank you, the entire P Cloudy team, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Priscilla. And thank you to all the audience for joining us today. And we really hope you've learned and enjoyed this presentation. So see everyone in 2023 with many more exciting episodes of Break Free. And wishing you all a happy New Year. And until then, bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.